Supertalk Mississippi media production.
Discover the Copiah Advantage. Copiah County is a Mid-South gem with a spirit of opportunity, a business-friendly environment, and access to major transportation networks. Copiah County, let's do business. Visit copiahworks.com today and discover the Copiah Advantage.
It's time for another edition of Mississippi Magic. Couple of observations on things that I didn't expect. Number one, how fast a week would pass, and we'd be able to share another incredible story of Mississippi's past. And secondly, the feedback on thanks for keeping these stories alive and telling the next generation Mississippi is special, and we appreciate it so very much. So when you share, you like, you subscribe, whatever you do in your podcast world, taking a few moments out of your day, we appreciate it, and thank you so very much for sharing. This episode of Mississippi Magic is called The King and I. It's a point of pride that you want the next generation to grasp, that even in the early days of this thing called television, fellow Mississippians took that mystical technology and made transformative cultural entertainment history. And that's really the theme that we want to pass on in this episode of The King and I. Alvin's name may be hard to find in some books, but the footprints of his work left a trail that made television history. And it's a great story to share with this generation and the next. More on Alvin as we follow him from his dreams to his destiny. Right after this, from our sponsor, the good people at Divini Equipment. Hey, look, just a reminder here. You realize June is almost gone? You'd be missing all of those incredible deals going on at Divini Equipment. And they're ready to make that Mississippi magic happen so you can take it home. And as we mentioned, if you've got a one-time job, Divini Equipment's rental division is where you need to be. Tractors and excavators and backhoes. Family-owned Mississippi company that's built their implement business on exceptional service over 50 years. That's our friends at Divini Equipment, Highway 51 in Madison and in Jackson, making Mississippi magic happen one customer at a time. Alvin was a typical Mississippi youngster, growing up outside one of Mississippi's larger, bustling cities, and then going to a nearby small college. Back in those days, having some definitive path for the future was not an option. It was expected. Alvin's plans were to become a doctor. Now, he did enroll in pre-med classes, but all handsome young men need a little extracurricular activity. And Alvin met up with a very attractive young lady who suggested he try out for theater parts outside those classes of the small Mississippi college. Well, Alvin was impressed, proud, a bit blushed. But if she thought he should be in acting, even though it was the last thing on his mind, then he would give it a try. Then something happened that he never thought would happen in 1,000 years. That audience feedback was an injection no medicine could have duplicated at the time for Alvin. And he found out something else, too. He was good at acting. It came naturally. Within a short time, he puts down the medicine bag and packs his travel bags. Here we go. That Mississippi magic reaches out and touches yet another Mississippian. Now in the Big Apple, Alvin hooks up with a troupe of stock players in very successful plays, some lasting almost 1,000 performances. That Mississippi work ethic also found Alvin in New York teaching at a local university and operating his own small business. As history notes, it was in that small record shop he owned that a fellow actor came by to kill some time. The conversation turned to an ad in the trades about a new TV series that was casting parts. Alvin had the stage, the road trips, the college job, and the struggling little store to contend with, and he said, absolutely not. What? This thing called television? After a little persistence, Alvin gave in. Yep, you guessed it, Mississippi Magic. He got the part a full year before one of the most historic TV series in American history hit the actual airwaves. On those little fuzzy screens that viewers considered at the time the most incredible technology ever, little did Alvin know that his acceptance in this role would have him giving guidance and counseling to a king That's right, a Mississippian chasing his dreams now in full view of millions of Americans from California to New York, sharing his wisdom with someone whose ideas were not always infallible. In all honesty, the storyline that created this historic, groundbreaking TV show, the original script, it actually took root before television. It was about two guys who worked on a farm outside Atlanta, Georgia, and decided to chuck it all and move to the Windy City. The storyline read, against every bit of advice from their families, these two wide-eyed dreamers packed 4 ham sandwiches, used their total treasure chest of $24 to buy tickets, and headed to Chicago. Simple enough for a television script, right? Well, it might have been simple, but it was pure magic. Every night it came on, families made darn sure they finished supper in time to gather in front of the TV set before the sponsor list was over. Sponsors like Pepsodent Toothpaste, Campbell's Soup, Renzo, Rexall Drugs, and the first scenes began. Looking back now, because of the historic impact of this show where Alvin had to keep the king in line, it's hard to believe it only lasted 2 years. In 2 years, it made television history. But its demise was not because of ratings. More about that later. The Mississippi-born actor, now well-known celebrity in New York and across America, was grateful for those 2 years. One reason is that some of the most famous and notable actors were candidates for that part that he got, people like Cab Calloway. But it was Alvin, whose Mississippi magic touched the hearts of the producers and picked him out of a crowded field to make entertainment history. And for that, even the king was forever grateful. As history notes, Alvin and the cast went on to take their celebrity status on the road for a tour until television grew up with a new audience and moved on, leaving Alvin and the king with few subjects or fans. Especially after CBS found out about the personal tour that was not sanctioned by the owners of the product, and of course, the lawyers were called in. So in the end, after some bit parts in modern-day shows like Perry Mason, Sanford and Son, Good Times, and The Jeffersons, Alvin's diabetes and a myriad of other ailments, life was taken from him. And that's the way it ended. But you should know that one thing that will never be taken from the Meridian, Mississippi youngster who left Russ College with a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology and a short stint in med school will be Alvin Childress' place in television history. The king would agree, and he would be thankful for all the troubles that Alvin kept him from getting into over the years. You see, Alvin was cast as the level-headed, hard-working, and very honest Mr. Jones, a guy by the name of Amos Jones, and the show that was killed not because of rating worries, but because of racism worries, was the famous, the iconic, the historic Amos and Andy.
3 women around the house is just too many.
Well, I gotta be getting along, Kingfish. Just be patient. Maybe she'll meet a nice guy, marry him, and move out. See you later.
You know, Kingfish, I think Amos got something there. Maybe you could introduce her to some fella and get her married. What does she look like?
That's her.
Well, let's try to think up another angle.
Meridian, Mississippi's Alvin Childress, Amos, had a full-time job keeping his gullible friend Andy from the get-rich-quick schemes of the king, George Kingfish Stevens. Isn't it amazing how many stories from arts and entertainment are filled with Mississippi magic?
Supertalk Mississippi Media Production.